According to Roy Moore, the Senate candidate from Alabama, the only time America was great was when we had slavery because, see, white families were close. America had a direction. It was a great time for white families that didn't work and the slaves were out there breaking their asses day in and day out. That was a wonderful, great moment in American history. That was when America was great, according to him. Well, I'm glad he can find a great era. I'm still looking for it. Roy Moore's incredible, even though we had slavery quote. So I just find this real interesting, but I'm not shocked. The ones that call everybody else lazy were actually the lazy ones that needed slaves. But let's get into this article. Most of the national coverage of Roy Moore's effort to upset the establishment in his bid for Senate in Alabama has been viewed through the lens of the sexual abuse allegations against him. But there are a slew of other reasons why Republicans were uneasy with his candidacy before those revelations were known. For instance, his praise for the time during which slavery existed in the US. Yes, he praised that time. Oh, thank you. Thank you for bringing the Negroes over to build up our nations because us sunburning pussball asses could never have done it. Moving on, comments from Roy Moore that praised the era of US history that included slavery because, according to Moore's lazy ass and his lazy ass forefathers, families were stronger, are getting new scrutiny in the final days of his campaign. So the only great time in America was when these darkies were out in the field slaving while we sat on the porch watching and yelling at them and beating them all day. That was a great time in American history. Great time. No wonder why America's getting frowned upon all around the world, and you deserve to be frowned upon, as far as I'm concerned. At the same event, Moore referred to Native Americans and Asian Americans as reds and yellows. And earlier this year, he suggested that 9/11 terrorist attacks were divine punishment. Now, you know what? I kind of agree with him on that. Okay. Now, let's go down. Leave aside the biblical condemnation at the top and the reds and yellow slurs at the bottom, and you're left with the middle part, which seems to pine for an era of this country that included slavery, a stain on the country that will never be washed away. You best believe it ain't going away. As long as you don't rectify the situation, it is here to stay. You can best believe that. But Moore can apparently get beyond the slavery part since, according to him, families were stronger. He's talking about white families, okay? Because remember, during slavery, our families were all separated and people cared for one another. And we sat and did nothing while those dock people did all the work. It says something about Moore, who is known for saying insensitive and aggressive things aimed at racial and ethnic groups and gays and lesbians, and that he could say something this incredible and not have it gain much notice. Well, that's usually what happens in America. I'm not shocked. Not shocked at all. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a video that I am going to play from CNN, Don Lemon and his panel.
Angela, at a campaign event in September, one of the only African Americans in the audience asked Roy Moore for his opinion on when the last time America was great. Here's the quote. I think it was reportedly the quote. I think it was great at the time when families were united, even though we had slavery. They cared for one another. Our families were strong. Our country had a direction. Is he saying that the last time America was great was when we had slavery?
I think that's how this is the only way. It's not even funny, but this is like insane. So that is the only reasonable interpretation. And unfortunately, a pedophile saying something like this isn't at all surprising. The reality of Roy Moore's bigotry, and frankly, some of the folks who have been polled talking about this race in Alabama, this doesn't surprise me at all. The fact that folks would rather elect a pedophile to the United States
Alleged.
Senate instead of, okay, whatever, instead of, there are cards in their yearbook signed, by the way, but okay, and he's been banned from malls, but okay. There's also this Democratic candidate who's been wow is exactly right. Wow is exactly right. But there's this other Democratic candidate who has prosecuted members of the KKK, and they would take the pedophile over the guy who's tried to lock up KKK members. You can't make this stuff up.
And she's right. And Roy Moore will probably win, despite the fact all the women came forward saying that they were
about
teenagers
or not.
They were teenagers and he groped them and did all types of sexual things. He's banned from many locations around Alabama because of these allegations. But despite all of that, they are going to vote him in. They're going to vote him in. America's going to vote in a pedophile that's been accused by multiple women, and he thinks slavery was the best time in America. It was the most incredible time because we were miserable and white families were bonding and they were coming together and the country had a direction. I will leave the link to this article in the description box. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And don't forget to hit on that notification bell. Peace, family.